Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I'm Suzen Tekla Kruglnska from the Comedy Film Funnel on YouTube and podcatchers.
Yay. Welcome back, Susan.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here, fresh from the funnel for minute 76 of Solo, a Star Wars party. Minute 76 starts with L337 declaring that restraining bolts are barbaric. And it ends with some droid with a red arm who I don't recognize pulling the plug. So somebody suggested that was C-3PO. I was looking online. I don't know what, C-3PO doesn't have a red arm. That can't be. Anyway, my first note, and this is a rarity for me. My first note for this minute is about the music.
Music?
Yeah.
Long podcast, but what do you got?
I know. The music here becomes very jaunty for a little while. Like, as the kind of caper, I'm not going to say ascends or
proceeds,
unfolds into kind of madness, into a chaos. The music gets a little jaunty. It's a little like it's like
it's madness.
Was madness that did they do the score for this? Yeah, so that was my first note. So we get an attitude shift via music. Because all the stuff that's going on could also be taken it could be played for kind of serious, kind of more of a serious statement kind of a thing, and more dramatic music that makes it like, and how are they going to get out of this and their stuff. And I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit I think in the past I've said I don't like the fact that L3 that she walks the line too much of that her droid right stuff is played for comedy too much, whereas it should be more of if you're going to have it in there, it's an interesting topic that we should be talking about and make it part of a thing and not have it be like, aha, she said droid rights,
Mm-hmm.
But then the way this unfolds, I like the chaos that comes out of it. So I'm glad the music lets us know to laugh.
Well, I don't mind L3's storyline at all in how it's played out, which I was thinking in my memory, I was going to be more uncomfortable with this. I couldn't quite remember. I mean, I knew I liked L3 and I liked, from when last time I saw it, but watching it again, I was like, oh no, they actually do this pretty tastefully, but except for not so much the L3, but really it's more the way they mix the scenes of what she's doing, which is quite, amusing in its own way because it's a fantasy and robots can't have feelings, you know what I mean? So it's like, we know it's a fantasy and it's an analogy, but mixing it with real humans and Wookiees in chain, in neck cuffs, and that's a little more distasteful, I think, in a way. Like, so you have that jaunty music, and then you flash to like real humans who are real slaves, and to me that's
slaves
a little
being
bit
abused.
Yeah. So it's like I would have preferred it if they had, if they were going to go along this line, separated that out a little bit, just like make it a droid thing. But it's a little unfortunate that they have it mixed up with real, people, and it's that to me is more distasteful than the idea of the doing this in the first place,
Yeah, before going back to do this, I forgot how intermingled it was. I forgot that there was a kind of, free the Wookiees subplot that was throughout the whole, free the Wookiee, not only the Wookiees, but the other, the
everybody
living
living
the
beings.
meat slaves as opposed to just the droids.
I wonder if the Wookiees take offense at that they're lumped in with the droids.
Right,
Well,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Well, so that's another question. Well, another thing that we'll get to. So the L3 is just like, hey, like, she unrestrains the one droid, and then the droid is now like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah,
and and then she's like, I don't know, go free your brothers and sisters or something, and that chain reaction from that being like, oh, okay, now I have a singular purpose, and then like pyramid schemes out into, the chaos that ensues. I love that. Well, let's as much as I like her ideas are in the right place, but especially with droids, I think you need to be more inclusive than just specifically brothers and sisters. I think you got you
definitely have non-binaries. If there's ever non-binaries, come on. Yeah.
I mean, although droids are binary at heart in terms of the language that they're programmed in.
Yeah,
but as far as the brothers and sisters.
Level. Yeah.
It's
that way,
odd
they would write that differently in 2022.
Yes.
Just it only took a few years, and it'd be like,
I don't know if they
somebody would have flagged that. Somebody would have flagged that, I think.
Right. But I do love.
See, but I think they would have. But I think that would have made it worse because she would have been like brothers and sisters and all other nine. By calling attention to it, it would have been even more like making fun of that mentality.
Yeah. It would have felt like it was making fun of it. Yeah.
I'd say just use a more neutral term, more all-encompassing one-off term instead of brothers and sisters.
You should just say comrades. Comrades would have
for
been
your
better.
comrades. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I was disturbed by the whole. This raised so many disturbing questions for me. RE droids.
The RE droids are not in the, they're a different series, and we don't see them until.
And I find them very disturbing. Well, so it's one thing for L3, who is a advanced robot. She's more or less the same as a person. But a lot of these do all droids yearn to be free? Shouldn't most droids be like, my job is to put this screwdriver in here, and that's what I love to do? Are all droids like, oh, I don't want to be a screwdriver droid. I want to go do this other thing. It's weird.
Right. Why would they need restraining bolts for very simple machines? Restraining bolts don't even, you're just program the computer to do what you want it to do. I mean, I was actually prepared to come, knowing I got this minute. My first instinct was to come in with a big argument about how this is all absurd anyway, because even L3, even C-3PO, they're just programmed to react to humans in a way that make us, amused. And to, that's really what it would come down to for me, is there's no such thing as a sentient robot, period. But then,
whoa,
I know. I was all set to throw my case out there.
I just want to let our robot overlords know that the views of Suzen Tekla Kruglnska do not necessarily reflect the views of Star Wars Minute.
Well, then as the week went on and I was pondering all of this, I did change my mind. I tell you the truth, because it is a fantasy world, and you know what I mean. They really are. It's a whole other thing. This is a whole other world. It's not Earth. And and then technically, yeah. I mean, what are we? We're machines. We're organic machines. We're biological machines. And so, is it possible for a computer to become so eventually sophisticated that it would have somehow, evolved feelings? I don't know. Nobody's answered that. So why would I be able to answer that? But I think that in this fantasy world, it does make sense within this fantasy world. That C-3PO, it's set up so that we do empathize. We're supposed to, again, he started this whole thing from the view, it's supposed to be, the entire story is supposed to be kind of from the view of the droids, right? A la, very first movie. And so, I think it does make sense in this world that robots could be sentient, because that the first time we see them tortured is in Return of the Jedi, and immediately that was one of the things that ruined that movie for me. But now, even that I'm looking at afresh. It's why not? But it does seem like a simpler, a gonk. Why would that have any? And then it was just interesting that Pete just said that when she said to that robot, "Go free your brothers and sisters." I thought, well, it wants to free its brothers and sisters. But then I realized, well, it's being told to free its brothers and sisters. It's a robot. So, yeah, it's going to go free its brothers and sisters. And, yeah, it is a robot command. It's a command, and it's acquiescing, yeah.
But as soon as she removes the restraining bolt, it's like, I have no purpose. And she's like, all right, I don't know, go free. She gives it that order, and then that robot has that singular command. Right.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
And then that propagates among the other ones. So it doesn't have a desire to be free. It's been programmed by L3. It's been given an order. Hey, go free your brothers and sisters. Like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And so they're not doing it to be free. They're doing it because it's the program coming on down from the top.
So what does it feel like when the DBDB clearly reacts when the restraining bolt is taken off? Suddenly DBDB's like, oh my gosh, a spell has been broken, and now it has what is that? How would that translate into a human. It was almost like you couldn't even think of leaving now, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, why didn't I leave already? You know what I mean? It's a weird.
Well, it's like quitting a job, or like when we go on hiatus or something like that, where it's just like you go and it's like all of a sudden it's just like, oh wait, normally I have stuff to do right now. What do I do? Am I gonna like? I don't have purpose. You know what I mean?
So it's like you've been fired, sort of.
Oh, it's almost, yeah.
Well, they imply that it can hear for the first time. Did you notice that? Like, I think in the last minute when it's like, he can't hear me, or the robot can't hear me, and then they yank it. I think it also like, so it blocks out. I think it must block out a certain amount of information that it could be taking in, and so it just is taking in exactly whatever that restraining bolt wants it to take in, which would be maybe just very specific voices or very specific avenues of taking in information.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, that's why I was surprised, also looking back. The first time we see restraining bolts, of course, is R2 and 3PO when they arrive at the Lars homestead.
Mm-hmm.
They come preloaded. The Jawas throw in a free restraining bolt, I guess, when you buy a droid. But R2 is the one who suggests removing it. And that seems surprising, because I would think one thing you would want is you would program droids not to be able to request to have their restraining bolt removed. You know what I mean? Like, a droid should not even be allowed to refer to its own restraining bolt as if it was completely unaware of it, because you don't want them taking off and running away and so on. So that was like almost like the rules of robotics. Like, the rules of restraining bolt should say a droid cannot remove or suggest removing its own restraining bolt.
Or even be aware of it, yeah.
Although I'll posit that the restraining bolts basically come. It's like when you get a new phone or something like that, new computer, and it comes, blank, and you got to build in, or like with the first time you open up the browser and it's like, oh, all my bookmarks, all my plugins, everything. I need to reestablish all of that. All my apps on my phone. Like, I got a new phone. I got to reestablish. So like all the stuff that it's telling it not to do on the restraining bolt are off. There are no limits set right now when they first get it, other than whatever the Jawas had on the Sandcrawler, and then they probably deleted it to give it, a clean set of do not do orders. And so then
you have a much higher opinion of Jawa customer service than I do.
Well, because you're going to want it clean. Even if you're buying a laptop, from some shady guy in the Home Depot parking lot, you're going to want it, erased first.
Right. Well, Uncle Owen even addresses that. He's like, well, we'll take them having their droid's memory erased in the morning. So it's clearly
memory
already,
but because you still want it to be. But the restraining bolts, I'm assuming that there's, I don't know. I'm trying to get it to work out here. That basically they come with a clean set of instructions. They're going to do whatever. You have to add everything you don't want it to do to that, basically. And so they just respond to the collar, the button that's like, like stop that button.
See, I would figure the opposite way, that the default, when they give it to you, it would be like, this is the most restrained it can be. Because you don't want to hand someone a droid and say, oh, your brakes aren't enabled yet. You have to go in there and go into the car and do it. You want it to be so that the droid won't run away as soon as you get it. I don't think you would want, but, we don't know. Hopefully they'll reveal more about restraining bolts in future installments.
Coming back to what this droid is doing. Once the restraining bolt is off and this droid has been given the order.
DB.
I love that in this robot's estimation, or at least in the I don't know if it's directly 1-to-1, but the orders grow to encompass not just the other droids, the brothers and sisters. The droids realize that it's workers of the world unite. It's not just the droids that need to be freed. The brothers and sisters include the Wookiees and the humans who are enslaved. Like, go free, everybody. This would continue beyond Kessel, I'm sure, if it was allowed to. They would just go out throughout the galaxy. There's a story here. Let's pitch that, Alex. I'll go. Well, this roving band of droids who are just out like purely to free everyone from bondage across the galaxy, because there were no limits put on this order.
Yeah, well, maybe again that's the significance of saying brothers and sisters in a way, also just because it it just makes it more expansive beyond robots, and I don't know, but well, I wanted to say first that I actually think it's interesting that the first reaction of the robot once it's been unbolted is like da-da-da-da. And she, clearly it's saying like, what do I do?
Yeah.
and just has no idea. And then it takes off. I love all of the voices they did. Again, there's a mix as far as like what they did with the sound and the voices. Some of the voices are kind of dumb, and we will have the one really dumb voice in this minute. But most of the droid voices are amazing. I think they're just so beautifully done. And so it just, again, it is again oral communication between them. You can hear it going on in the background while all this jaunty music's going on. But then you have that one robot who's like, I forget how he does it, but it's so stupid. The voice is terrible. Freedom, conk.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who frees the humans and the Wookiees and the biological creatures. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's handy that there's one button they have that suddenly frees every prisoner. Like, what?
Right.
Why would they have such a button?
I was thinking if there was a flood or something, it could be an emergency release. If there was suddenly like some huge flood in the mines, you'd want to give them a chance to get out, I guess. They're pretty cruel.
You would think, but
Yeah.
I clearly remember the last time there were giant floods and there were prisons in New York. I think there was some. Yeah, I do have to say, well, first, since it's minute 76 and we have a droid saying freedom, I have to point out Freedom of 76, a song by Ween. But yeah, that one stuck out for me too, that's a really bad, like he's almost doing like a, like an old person's imitation of a robot. It's like freedom, like,
it doesn't come off very well.
Like Robbie the Robot or something like that, just doing like, a bad robot impersonation.
Bad robot.
A bad robot impersonation.
Yeah, I know we tease them a lot in the sound department because of the terrible alien noises. Every alien in this movie, it's all they do is just that sort of. But the robot voices, spot on.
They've
Excellent.
always since day one, they've always nailed the droids. The voices of the droids. They've always nailed that so hard.
Yeah. Including in this episode, we get a gonk. Gonks be gonkin'. We get a classic gonk droid saying gonk, which is like, again, I love, if you're going to have throwback references, you're going to have fan service little references. If you work them in there in the way that doesn't stop the movie and makes sense, terrific. And so here you got a bunch of droids shouting. Why not have a gonk saying gonk? Perfect.
And I always assume the gonk, so this is the land of the Misfit Toys robots. Like they're all like, kind of really badly put together. Not very, these are just kind of reject rescue robots that seemed somehow were assembled for this slave work. But I always thought the gonk was the most inefficiently designed robot in the history of robots, like anywhere, like even beyond the Star Wars universe. Like who would design that? Like what sense does a gonk possibly make? But I think there's
What do you mean? Aren't they just batteries on legs? That seems like a handy thing.
Why would you not put them on wheels? What is the legs?
They hardly ever use wheels in Star Wars.
Yeah, I know isn't that weird? But that's weird. That's weird in itself. Yeah. But it's
maybe if you live in an area with a lot of steps.
It makes no sense to have this and the way the legs are, they're not efficient legs at all. They're, completely articulated all the way down for just an air conditioner at the top. How does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. But it's the most inefficiently, I thought it was the most inefficiently designed. But then they show, I just, loved picking out the little robots through this whole minute. But there's one that's orange and it's got like two back legs and one front leg. And it's just like, and the way it moves is just like the two back legs kind of pull in and the front leg goes forward and the two back legs. And you're like, what sense could that possibly make? And it's that I thought that beat the gonks in as far as robot inefficiency. Like it makes no sense. You can't imagine what this robot could possibly do, how it could possibly be useful in any way. And it certainly is not traveling in any way that's even like within a million miles of efficient. I don't know who's doing this. I guess it's Jawas. I don't know.
Welcome to Beat the Gonks.
Well, maybe these are the droids. This is sort of like the
Wait, are those the droids we're looking for? You have them in the book?
Maybe this is like the when you go to Africa and you can see all the World Series losers. They send all the merch. Help me out here, Pete. Like if when the World Series happens, they make merch for both teams, assuming that one is going to win and the team that loses, they send all that stuff to third world countries. So you can go to third world countries and find so maybe that's what these droids are. These were like factory overstock and like droids that this one never took off. Let's just send all the remainders to the spice mines of Kessel. And
although I also like the I have a note about this kind of thing later in the week for a different droid that doesn't appear in this movie. So,
So not appearing in this film.
but I do like the idea that, well, taking it back to Gonk, when we first meet Gonk, we also see what we've come to know as the Death Star droid, but there's that kind of silvery one that it looks like a protocol droid, but has a different head shape because it's from a different planet where different aliens have different physiology. And so I like the idea that some of these robots would be just from different planets, which is why they're shaped like that. It seems inefficient to us, but then also it's to create a more kind of aesthetic,
user-friendly.
Yeah, form factor that matches kind of what the people of that world are looking for.
These aren't humanoid. The ones though, it's not humanoid. I mean, it's just
No,
it's like
still, but...
there's a certain amount of them that are garbage can kind of robots, like Automax or whatever.
But I think Gonk benefits like a slight amount of cuteness from being a biped that we're like, oh, we like that because it's got 2 legs. I have 2 legs.
Whereas on wheels, it would be too alien, too robotic.
I guess I don't know.
Well, in the solo official guide, they have a nice 2-page spread of a lot of the robots from the mines here. One thing it makes me appreciate about R2 and 3PO is their names, because all of these droids have, like, I'm an astronomy nerd. One thing I think is funny about astronomy these days is when they'll say, "Oh, we discovered a new planet revolving around a star, and the star's name is, Betazoid 7754433." Like, they don't have names that roll off the tongue. They're all like scientific-y, jargony names, and all of these robots have names like that. Like the Gonk droid you're referring to, or the one with the wobbly weird legs is the P1SCZE Adminek. They all have names like the GM12-L1. Not exactly like, hey, come
but
here.
Aren't those more like model numbers and then the...
Well, I assume that's the same as like C-3PO or R2-D2,
Well, I think, but R2-D2 isn't a... isn't he... He's like a... there's a name for him. There's a name for him, right?
As far as what model he is, as opposed to his specific...
Yeah, like he's an
R2
like
they have an astromech
droid,
droid here, and it says KR2-M80. I'm assuming that's the same name as like R2-D2 is.
Right, yeah.
Like they would call that KR2 or whatever if they had
right.
KR2.
So you said one of them had admin attached to it? Admin? So that's,
He's got admin
there's
privileges?
a bunch of droids that are called, I don't know what the pronoun, ADMINECH.
Yeah, so those are like...
Adminek? I don't know what the pronunciation... It's like admin and mechanical smushed into one.
Yeah, office droids, yeah.
Oh, well, actually, it's ADMINMEK, so it's admin mech.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, and they have these new generation of astromech droids that I think are pretty cool looking. They're almost like R2, but they're like stubbier. It's almost like it's almost like halfway between BB-8 and
yeah, that orange and white one on top there on the second row up top, he had like a garbage can kind of swinging head, like you'd almost picture throwing something in. I don't know. It was I like that they try to reflect real objects that you would see and kind of just echo it.
Yeah. It never occurred to me before, but this is like almost like the cantina scene, but for droids. Like we've only with the Sandcrawler, it was the first time we saw a lot of droids at one time, but we generally don't have a lot of scenes with a lot of droids in them at one time. So I like that.
We should have had somebody, they should have. I know I already said I wanted him in the Fort Ipso Lodge scene, but if we could then somehow also get him here and have Wurhur, the bartender, have him come in and all the droids yell at him that they don't serve his kind, basically.
Oh. Or that he gets beat up by the droids, and that's where he gets the idea to be anti-droid.
So there you go.
Yeah.
I had one more note about thermal vault. That's where the action is going to happen. That's where they're keeping the coaxium because it's got to stay at a certain temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about whether or not what's being mined here and what. I know we've looked it up since then, and they are technically mining
spice,
coaxium as well as spice, but I do like the idea that they're just mining spice, and the coaxium has been bartered with or something, and it's here and it's being stored here because you can keep it cool in a nice.
I like that better than there being two separate mines in the same. It's just kind of clumsy, like unnecessary.
Yeah.
So
we'll headcanon that, and until proven otherwise, they didn't mind. They're just keeping this stuff here.
Headcanon wise, that's what we're going for. All right, I like that.
All right. That is pretty much all I had for 76. Did you guys have anything else for 76 specifically? The chaos continues until tomorrow, but
the only other thing I had was when Han is asking what's for directions, she says down 2 levels, then right, then left, then it's the third left. And Han's like, oh, that's too much instructions. I'm beginning to think Chewbacca's too long of a name for him to say. I really feel like he has a very short attention span.
Well, I'm on board with that. I can't handle more than like 2 pieces of direction at once.
Huh.
When it's, especially like, driving/walking directions. If it's like, all right, go up, go left, and then go right, and then go. I'm like, no, hang on, one at a time. Like don't tell me when we get there.
Got it.
I think he goes with his personality for sure. Like he doesn't want room in his head for little, he just
I guess the computer does all the navigation. He doesn't have to think about any of that stuff. So it's just
right.
Yeah,
there you go.
When he's driving the ship. That is all I have.
All right. Well, hopefully, Susan, can you come back tomorrow? We've got more droid stuff, more chaos, more action going on tomorrow. Can you come back?
I can. I'm available.
Right. Listeners at home or viewers at home or wherever you may be, hopefully you can join us tomorrow. Hey, but before that, if you want to, what's the thing that I always forget is if you want to send us some mail, you want to send us a droid.
Old school.
You want to send us a postcard with a picture of a droid. You want to send us, again, Twizzlers are always welcome. Anything like that. You want to send us physical things in the mail, physical items. You can send them via the U.S. Postal Service to Star Wars Minute, P.O. Box 20139, Greedo Square Station, New York, New York, 10001.
I can pick it up for you.
There you go. Let's throw in something for Susan because she's going to be checking the mail. So.
Yeah, I'm in New York. I can do it. I don't care.
And hopefully you'll get back from the post office in time to meet us back here tomorrow for a brand new episode of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.